From the studios of Clean Fuels Alliance America, this is the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast. Fascinating ideas and conversations in the world of biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel. Now, here's your host, Scott Tremaine.
And welcome. In today's episode, Clean Fuels Director of State Governmental Affairs, Jeff Earl, is joined in studio by Missouri's 57th Governor, Mike Parson.
Thank you, Scott. Well, this is a great honor for me personally to get to interview my former boss and the current governor of Missouri, Governor Mike Parson. Thanks for coming into studio today.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff, for having me in here. But let me clarify for the listening audience, I really wasn't your boss. We worked together in the governor's office. How's that?
Well, I appreciate that. And I, can't say enough how much I was thankful to have the opportunity to work for you and all the great things that we did. So it was a great time. It was an interesting time during my time there with you, working with you, but memories I'll cherish. And my daughter still asks me if I'm still famous, even though I don't work for the governor anymore. So she,
well, that's good. That's good. You know what I was just talking a little earlier about how many people has worked for the governor since I've been governor. I've been just so blessed to have so many great people work in that office, and you'll always be one of them that helped me in the beginning, and here we are today, and I don't think either one of us thought we'd be sitting here at this table at this time doing what we're doing today, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, podcast interviewing was never something I thought I'd be doing in, post-governor's office work, but here we are. But Governor, I know we didn't really go through your background, your history. A lot of our members are familiar with you. You've been to our office several times now. You've been very welcoming to our organization. You were here a couple summers ago for our commemorating our name change. You've had us over to the governor's mansions, which our governor and board really enjoys. I think we've kind of spoiled them now because every time they come to Jeff City, they're asking when can we go see the governor? Is he having us over again? So I just want to say thanks for that. But let's get into it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how you got into politics, and just your career in general.
It's kind of been a crazy ride for me, and I guess there's a way I just want to talk a little bit. I think I'm kind of a dying breed. I really do, and I know you're familiar with. We just got the biography just released. Matter of fact, just yesterday we picked the books up to have them present. But when you went back and you looked at your biography, sometimes and you just say, "How did this all begin?" And what prepared you to be here? You get that question a lot, but it all started on a farm. My mom and dad were sharecroppers. They moved from farm to farm when us boys were growing up. In the world of material things, we didn't have a whole lot, but we didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had what everybody else had for the most part. So you learned early on how to be a good neighbor, how to respect people, how faith played a role in that as I grew up. And that was kind of what I want to call the foundation. Growing up in a small town, town I grew up in is 356 people. That ain't changed much today. Yeah. Hickory County is probably one of the poor counties in the state. Yeah. To be able to do that. So I think that original foundation that built when I was young, and you just worked hard all your life. You just didn't know anything different than you had to work. And when come time you become a man, which is a very early age, you had to go find something else to do. And that's kind of how it all started. And I think the finishing top of growing up was about 6 years in the United States Army, 2 tours of duty overseas, and you're going to grow up one way or the other when you join the Army on that. So
yeah, and I know many of our members and our listeners, can probably share that story. We have a lot of agricultural farmers in our membership, and can really connect with that humble beginnings and just trying to make the best of life. So. That's great. And so I know a lot of this, you talked about the biography in the book, but your book, No Turning Back, so it is out now, and we can...
It is, and I need it for all your listening audience, even if you don't know me or you don't even like me, I don't care. I just need you to buy the book. There's so many copies that my biggest fear is I'm never going to be able to park my vehicles in the garage again, but... again, it was interesting, and the money from the book goes to the First Lady's nonprofit foundation that we're going to do. Every penny goes to that. It was just so intriguing to be able to do it and to really go back and find out where we all came from and all the challenges we've had in life. And actually, the title of the book, No Turning Back, you were actually there, and maybe you didn't realize that title was how it all come about. But the first day I became governor, when the other governor resigned, there was a lot of chaos in our state. I remember walking into the media, and it seemed like there was 1,000 cameras and clicks and flashes and just here we go. But I remember right before they opened the door, some of my staff was standing there, and they said, well, what are you going to do now, Governor? And I said, I don't know, but there's no turning back.
Yep.
So that's really how that name come about, and we've kind of kept that through the theme of it. And we've just had that kind of as 5.5 years goes, there's been so many challenges in our state. But again, it all goes back to the foundation of growing up on a farm. Understanding how much agriculture means not only to just my little area down where I'm from, but for the state and for the world now that I've seen the world stage. And when you talk about energy, what you guys are doing in today's world, the thing that drives us all right now that I think is important, and you guys as industry too that we're talking about today, is the future and how technology is going to drive that. And I think for me, when you look what I do on a farm, whether it's baling hay or taking care of cows, whatever it is, I mean, every time you get in a piece of equipment anymore, you're going to have some idea of technology to be able to get in it and to be better stewards of the land and better stewards of the production. So I think just kind of coming from that foundation kind of set me up to be understanding agriculture. There's not very many governors in the United States that really has that background, and they're kind of trained to say the right things, but there's a big difference when you live it and you understand how it affects you every day, what state government does.
Yeah, I know we do a lot of work on the federal level and the state level, and it seems like there are fewer and fewer elected officials that have that ag farm background these days. And, years ago you see a lot more of them, but now that seems like that has been something that we're seeing less and less of. And whether it's you're not having young folks staying on the farm, or you don't have those people interested in getting into elected politics. There is some barrier sometime when our industry is trying to connect with lawmakers on that. But I know my mom grew up on the farm, a cotton farm in West Tennessee, and you can definitely tell that her values were what shaped us as a family. And so it's great to see that's going to be reflected in the book.
I think the other thing too, Jeff, for just what you mentioned, I think it's important for everybody listening too. There's just not very many people in agriculture anymore. It's just the reality of it. There's not a lot of real McCoy farmers out there anymore. But that also makes your associations even more important. Yeah. It makes important what you do, that you can educate people on the issues. And that's why I think whether it's you guys doing what you do with Clean Fuels, or it's Cattlemen's Association, corn, you can just go on down the list. But that's why the associations are going to be more important than ever moving forward, because you're going to have to tell the story and you're going to have to educate legislators because they don't know.
Yeah. We do a lot of educating, and it's sometimes difficult. But I did want to ask, back to the book, you mentioned that the proceeds go into the First Lady's Foundation, and I know you guys have been very involved with supporting the Jobs for American Graduates, the JAG program. Is that one of the industries or one of the associations that you guys will be help support with the proceeds? Yeah,
that's a huge program for me and the First Lady, and maybe because I was pretty close to that when I grew up. I wasn't one of the better students when I grew up. I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger and kind of paid a price for that. But there's a lot of other kids out there just like what I was and what we see today that really these are kids that don't need a handout. They just need a hand up. And we got involved with the JAG program when I was lieutenant governor. In the day when we first started it, there was 262 JAG students in the state of Missouri. Today there's over 4,000.
Wow.
So we was in like 7 or 8 schools. 7 or 8 schools when it first started. Now we're in the 100 bracket of schools that are offering this. But the most important thing, the quickest version I tell you, these are kids that's probably borderline or dropping out, probably not going to make it through school if they don't get a little help to be able to do this. So that's why JAG is so important. But I think the most important statistic I tell you in a very short period of time like this, any kid that gets in the JAG program, they have a 98% chance of graduating. That's why I signed on it in the first place, because I thought, okay, if you can take these kids and you can turn them around, regardless what home life's like, where they've been, and we can get them as productive into the workforce. And for me, it's all about the workforce. So there's no reason those kids can't get through high school. We can't get them a job.
Yeah.
But the first goal is you got to educate them and get them out there and learn some life skills, and that's exactly what JAGS does. So I'm a big believer in it. The first lady I know she's kind of took that under her wings and just did a great job with it.
Yeah, and I know, talking about, getting kids ready for, the workforce and getting them training has been a priority for years from day one, infrastructure and workforce development. So let's maybe talk a little bit about that now. I know that's something, we've seen, here in Missouri, a lot of the efforts you've done to improve the infrastructure around the state, whether it's rural roads, bridges, I-70, Rocheport Bridge. Talk a little bit about what some of those accomplishments have looked like and how that might impact Missouri's economy and maybe also our agriculture economy.
Gosh, Jeff, for the future of our state, it's going to be remarkable. I mean, you served over there at the Capitol. I mean, these are things that probably every governor wished they had a wish list that they could even start these things. But we don't even start them. We've got them completed. I mean, they are on track to be done. When you look at some of the largest infrastructure projects in our state, the I-270 intersection in St. Louis, the Rocheport Bridge on I-70, the Buck O'Neill Bridge, one of the largest bridges in Kansas City. And then you do 6 lanes on I-70. Whoever thought that would ever be possible? Yeah. I mean, that's a game changer for the economic driver of our state. When you look at Kansas City Southern merging with Canadian Pacific in the railroad, in the rail industry, for the first time in North America, you'll have continuous rail from Canada to Mexico, and the headquarters will be in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's amazing.
Those are things that you think, how in the world did this all happen? And then the expansion we're making on the river ports for a lot of people, and this listening on when the grain that we're trying to get in and out of this country, to be able to do that. 50% of our roads now in Missouri have been redone or resurfaced, I mean, in 5.5 years. And we just continue to build on. Springfield, Columbia, Kansas City, almost new airports in every one of these areas. People, when they want to invest in your state, in this country, are going to look to see, are you really doing something when it comes to infrastructure? Are we really going to make my life easier to get my product in and out of here and to do business with you and to partner with you? And the other thing I guarantee you they're going to look at is, have you got a workforce that will come to work for us? And I'm talking about people like in agriculture industry that you're going to have to do those everyday jobs, maybe get your hands a little more dirtier than most and get a little dirt on your boots, I guess, for a better phrase. But you got to teach kids it's going to be okay to go in these industries and work for them.
Yeah, and so, obviously infrastructure, workforce development, you mentioned, these are top indicators when you're talking to CEOs and other folks who are looking at Missouri or St. Louis regions, Kansas City regions as, where is the state at on these things? And these are some of the top things that they look at. They look at economic policy, obviously, but then the things that you just mentioned are also very top of mind. And it's great that, we've positioned ourselves.
Yeah. I think by making workforce development a priority, you see where we're at. Like right now, we rank number 1 in the United States. Missouri does for on-the-job training. Number 2 in apprenticeships. Number 4 in manufacturing. Number 7 in aerospace, automobile industry. So, I mean, you're doing all the things you need to do to bring businesses to look at you. But the real point of it is if you do all these, if you get the infrastructure in place and the workforce, in the last 5.5 years, now keep in mind that's floods, droughts, civil unrest, that's COVID-19, we've brought in over $15 billion worth of new business in the state of Missouri and over 110,000 new jobs. And I couldn't be more proud of that, but it's just staying the course and really doing what's best for people. And when you talk workforce development infrastructure, those are not Democrat or Republican issues. It's good for everyday people. And that's what I hope when I leave, that we have those accomplishments like that you'll see for years and years. It's going to benefit the state. And I think for me and you that happened to sit over there in the governor's office for a while, we just had a little bit to do with that and put a little crumbs on the table, I guess.
This is the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast.
All right, and we're back. You are listening to the Better, Cleaner Now podcast, and with me in the studio today is Governor Mike Parson, G57 as we called him in the office, but enjoy having this conversation with you. And Governor, I know you're in your last year, unless you're making any late breaking news today. Your name will not be on any ballot in 2024, and I see you're smiling about that. But, we were just talking about your work and focus on infrastructure and workforce development. And, that's, obviously been a high priority, from day one for
Right.
you. And
Right.
but there's also so many other legacy pieces that we can talk about. And I just want to mention the special session last summer on agriculture. I know that was a tough decision, but walk us through that. We had you had a bill on your desk. You elected to veto it because you felt like it just wasn't putting agriculture in this state on the same level as other economic interests. So
Yeah. Well, you know how that time was, Jeff, but for everybody listening, it was a very difficult time because, you like to kind of, I guess, blow your own horn a little bit. You're ag governor, and you're always there to protect agriculture, and all of a sudden you get an agriculture bill in front of you, and your choice is to take what you got and try to call it happy, or you veto it and says, no, we want to be treated like every other business in the state. And it was tough because I think everybody was nervous. Could they get it done? Could they get anything passed? But at the end of the day, Jeff, I'll be honest with you. Agriculture is just important to me as Boeing, as Ford Motor Company, as Bayer, as any other big corporations or any other business in the state of Missouri. And I didn't like the idea that we were having to take a second seat to anybody else. And I want, first of all, and when I got so many thank yous to do on that, because it was a tough decision. Even the agricultural community wasn't totally 100% supportive. I mean, they're kind of like, what are you doing here, Governor?
Yeah.
But the reality of it is I explained why I did what I did. I explained that I thought we had a path to move forward. And look, I always think I have an end game. I mean, that's one of the things I think the gray hair comes with of who I am. I just didn't do that, say, I'm going to veto it, then trying to figure it out. We were figuring it out before we ever vetoed what we're going to do. But again, a lot of organizations, yours number one, was a big supporter. You've been to many of the town halls we went to and the events we went to. But I was very proud of the day when we all stood together and says, look, we can do better, and we did do better. And but it's not easy sometimes. It's not easy.
And that's why I think, sometimes the benefit of being in the governor's office or being the governor is having that more long-term vision and having a plan long-term for, especially an industry as important as agriculture in this state. It would have been just as easy just to sign the bill and move on, but it wasn't the right thing to do. We could have done better, and we did do better, and we're very thankful. I know in that bill, was some tax incentives for biodiesel, which is a very important industry in this state. We're top 5 in production and top 5 in soybean production in this state. So it's an industry that essentially was born here. That's why this studio is in Jeff City, Missouri, and not anywhere else, is because of this industry and seeing where it's grown over the past 30 years. But we do appreciate that long term vision and looking out for agriculture and interest, because I know it wasn't an easy situation, but in the long run, it's going to be a lot better for this industry going forward. I
think the other thing, Jeff, for your listening audience here today and for the people involved, if agriculture will stand together, you don't mean you have to stand together on everything. We're always going to have to do it. But when we stand together, we are one of the most powerful units, lobbyists in the world when agriculture stands together, because everybody needs us to survive. So when we stick together, when you guys do and all the other ag commodities do that, we are somebody to reckon with when we walk into a Capitol building or the federal or state. People don't want to necessarily just tick off all the farmers across this country and for all the industries that are connected to it, because it's the largest driver in the United States of what we do.
Yeah, and so, seeing that your time is coming, I see you got your Parson Farms vest on today, so it looks like you're already looking forward to getting back on the farm. So what is life going to be like for Governor Parson once he leaves office?
Yeah, boy, that's a good question. I'm looking forward to going home. I really am. I do believe there's a time we all know when that time comes, I believe. So it's my time to go home, but I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I mean, I'm never a guy that likes to sit around, drink coffee half the morning or anything like that. Normally when I get up out of bed, it's there's something going on or we're doing something. So I got a bunch of grandkids at home I owe a great deal to. They've give up a lot for me to be the governor of the state for 5.5 years, so I got a lot of makeup to do there. I got a little 4.5-year-old that I want to take her to school every once in a while. I got a new great-grandson. So I'm looking.
Congratulations!
Yeah, it was.
Awesome.
I'm still trying to deal with that a little bit because I really thought that only happened to old people. But anyhow, so I'm kind of trying to deal with that. But we've been blessed to have the family we have, and they've sacrificed a lot. So I'm just going to go home, man. I'm going to be on the farm, enjoying the farm, and watch all you young guns go to work every day up here.
We'll try to keep things going in the right direction. We appreciate the leadership you've given us, but I know I can't get you off the interview yet without asking about the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, we know you're a huge supporter. I mean, we were joking earlier that, or you were telling us that no governor has ever had their NFL team to so many Super Bowls, AFC championships. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class, because for the first time in 6,944 days, there is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Neat that you're sitting in that seat when it all happens.
Yeah, so let me kind of walk through this a little bit, because I like the bragging rights on this, so I get to brag against all the other governors. Since I've been governor, we have been in the AFC Championship game 6 years in a row. Of those, we've been in 4 Super Bowls. We've won 3 of the 4. The 3 we've won, I've been to every one of them. As the 57th governor, we won the 57th Super Bowl last year, so that number 57 will never line up. No other governor's number will ever line up for a Super Bowl. That was the only time that number could have lined up. And if you want me to go one step further on the 57, when I ran for election in 2020, I won for 57%.
That's right.
So I'm trying to tell the Chiefs, I'm trying to tell Hunt, and the Coach Reed, says, hey, you guys need to kind of let me hang around for a little while. I'm kind of a little bit got something going here.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll see. But, hey, it's pretty fun. MU wins a Cotton Bowl. I mean, the Blues won the Stanley Cup when I was governor.
Yeah.
I mean, the soccer teams that are coming on. And Missouri's just a great sports state. So for me, it's always a fun day when you're at a sporting event somewhere.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get our Cardinals back on track.
Yeah, we need to do a little work there. Yeah.
So.
They're kind of a big deal. And I guess one last thing about the Chiefs, I told Coach Reed, I was sitting in his office after the draft, and I said, hey, Coach, he says, he was talking about me going out my last year, and I said, hey, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, if you go back to back, I said, that'd be a pretty good way to go out. Nobody's done that for like 2 decades.
Yeah.
And he said, back-to-back's kind of hard to do. So I seen him after the Super Bowl the other day, and I said, hey, you remember that conversation we had now? He said, I remember. I said, well, that back-to-back don't look so bad now.
No, yeah.
So now we need to go back-to-back-to-back.
There we go.
So we'll see what happens on it.
Well, we'll be obviously here in Clean Fields headquarters rooting for the Chiefs and for that three-peat, I guess is what they call it. So we'll be right there with you. And so, Governor, we're going to wrap it up here. Any final remarks you want to leave for our listeners today?
I think the only thing I'd like to tell everybody here is don't give up on the political arena. There are good people trying to do good things. And you just got to try to – sometimes it seems like they're a little hard to find. But I do want you to know there's a lot of people go up there trying to represent people back home and trying to do right thing. And try to look through all the clutter that you can and understand that everybody's names in the headlines is probably not the ones getting things done. It's always kind of behind-the-scenes people that get things done. But I want everybody to know from my position that I've been blessed to have the career I've had. And for me and the First Lady – I think being a public servant has to be the priority. It's not about the title of governor or sheriff or sergeant in the Army or whatever it might be. It's truly we're public servants. We're supposed to go out there and just help everyday people every day. And I've tried to stay focused on that my entire time. So I say that because me and Teresa have lived the American dream. We just want to make sure our kids and grandkids have the same shot that we did at it. I don't know what they do with it, but I want all kids and the next generations to have the same opportunities to have. And that's what drives me to go to work every day, me and her. So it's been a great experience. It's been one of the highest honors I've ever had, being the 57th governor of the great state of Missouri.
That's awesome. Well, Governor, it was great working with you and being, side by side with you on many of these things. And, just appreciate your leadership, for the state and for the country. So that's going to wrap it up here. Remember, you can get No Turning Back, Governor Mike Parson's book at mikeparson.com. Until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the Better, Cleaner Now podcast, as we will have more exciting guests in the future.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. To catch all the latest from Clean Fuels Alliance America, follow us at cleanfuels.org. The Better, Cleaner Now podcast is a production of Clean Fuels Alliance America. That's all for us. Now it's your turn to be better, cleaner now.